Daniel es arquitecto principal y es el arquitecto principal y jefe de grupo de investigación de asentamientos humanos sostenibles del Grupo de Informática en el Consejo de Investigación Científica e Industrial en Pretoria, Sudáfrica. Ha estado involucrado en la investigación de diversos aspectos relacionados con la criminología ambiental y la prevención situacional del delito desde 1998. Es un apasionado de la prevención del delito en el contexto de los países en desarrollo, centrándose en particular en la relación entre el crimen y el diseño, planificación y gestión del medio físico, y se especializa en la prevención del delito mediante el diseño ambiental CEPTED. Él es el director de la Junta Directiva de la Asociación Internacional CEPTED y ha sido autor y es coautor de varias publicaciones, ha presentado diversas ponencias en diversas conferencias y lleva a cabo talleres de capacitación sobre CEPTED y el desarrollo de los planes de seguridad de la comunidad. Así que, sin más preámbulo, yo le cedo la palabra a Daniel para que podamos continuar con esta segunda fase de nuestro primer día de conferencias. Muchas gracias a todos los comentaristas. Vamos a dar inicio una vez más. Gracias y muy buenas tardes. Adelante, Daniel, por favor.
Good. Apparently, in the afternoon, you say, buenas tardes. Is that correct? But I'm looking at some of you, I think it's buenas noches. Anyway, thank you very much to the conference organizers, to everyone that played a part in making this possible. You've just seen all the logos. I've never seen so many people involved in a conference like I've seen with the 17,000 or so logos that is on there. I would also like to thank the people who sponsored some of us to come here. Thank you very much, and the volunteers and the Mexican government, and also particularly perhaps the translators. I think they've got a very difficult job with all the different accents. So that's the last bit of Spanish, unfortunately, that you're going to see in this presentation. But I've put in a lot of pictures, so hopefully that will help. And I'm going to speak very slowly so that the translators can keep up with us. Okay. The topic of my discussion, my presentation today, is CEPTED and community participation. And I know that we're a little bit behind on the program, but I would like to do just a little bit of an experiment with your help. Since we are talking about participation, I would like you to participate in this next little exercise by doing the following, one of the following. I'm going to show you a picture. You will not know what the background is, what the context is, and where the picture was taken. But I would like you to, with a show of your hand, tell me whether you think you will feel safe walking down that particular street, or whether you will feel unsafe. And I'm going to show you just now. But just to make sure that this experiment cannot fail, I'm also going to say you're allowed to do absolutely nothing and ignore my request. So, I'm going to ask you a question. The next picture, do you think you will feel safe walking down this road? Raise your hands if you think you will feel safe. Do you think you will be unsafe walking down the street? There's a hand there, there's a hand there. Right. Just one or two more. This picture, will you feel safe walking down that street? Yes? No? Living in one of these houses, will you think it's safe to live there? Yes? No? Okay, I will not go through the rest, but this is what you would have seen. Safe? Chilly. Safe in playing in that playground? Not safe? Oh, Macarena. Oh. Chilly? Walking down that street, will you feel safe? No. Unsafe. Okay. And who didn't put up their hands once? It's not a trick question. Who did not put up their hand once? You all put up your hands. Okay. Will you feel safe or unsafe here? You better feel unsafe. Unsafe. Thank you very much. I've got unsafe there. Anyone with another answer? Okay. All right. This little experiment, I think, just goes to show that the whole idea and the concept of participation is so critical because of what we have seen here. Different perceptions, different opinions. The same photograph, no more information. Some feel safe, some don't feel safe. And that, you will see hopefully throughout the presentation, is why it is so critical to involve people to an extreme extent in your decision making. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the concept of participation. Then, unfortunately, and this is the bit where you can sleep a bit, you have to understand a little bit about the South African context to understand what I'm going to talk about later. Then we will talk a little bit about how we implement SEPTET in South Africa, so that we can talk about one or two practical examples that hopefully will relate to what you're experiencing in your country. And then hopefully we will be able to draw some conclusions from that that will be maybe of assistance. Right, let's start. This whole idea of participation, and excuse me, I just want to get this paper off, because if I touch that, the screen goes down and then my presentation is gone. This whole notion of participation is quite a tricky concept. We know that opinions about what it is vary considerably, and there's also a lot of misconceptions about what is meant by participation. So it could be a philosophical or intellectual minefield if you want to talk about it at that level, but we're not going to, thank goodness. And then also just, it's not a new issue. I came across this very interesting document that is so old, it was still written on a typewriter. Now, for the younger amongst us, that's a typewriter. This document is by the United Nations. And look, 1917, many of you were not born then. And the title of the document is Participation of the Public in the Prevention and Control of Crime and Delinquency. Now, for many of you, that's not old, but for many of you, that will say, wow, did they discuss it in the 70s? And just want to highlight 3 little paragraphs or sentences. The one, we said there's a lot of misconceptions. This came out of it. You don't have to read it, but it says this idea of participation of the public is by no means unambiguous. So what that means is it's tricky. It is ambiguous. Then the next thing we said, that it's sensitive. And in this case, there's just 2 things. It says there that there's an increasing degrees of reliance of the community. Now that means that it could be something as simple as asking community members what they want, right up to where the community takes over and could become a vigilante group. All of that, some people would argue, is we are participating in crime prevention. And then there's this issue about cultures. What you think is acceptable here